Yeah, so I think for my buyer, the thing is always to make sure to make the strongest offer. You always want to be at a point where you're not the weakest offer, and if they're really interested in that home and there's other offers, you want to make sure that you're sending in that strong offer.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another Workout Wednesday. Thank you for joining us for the final week of April. For this week's video, we have the third member of our Tenda Williams group, Mirlene Collier.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Welcome on. I've had Kyle on first, and I've had Tony on, and so when they brought you on, I knew that I had to get the complete trio on, so maybe one day we'll get the full group if I get a little bit more equipment. But before we roll into today's topic about negotiation, I want to learn just a little bit more about you. We've worked together in the past,
Yes.
But for anybody that's watching this video that may be outside the company or haven't met you yet, even though they are in our company, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Noah, first of all, I have 5 kids and a husband, very large family. Real estate has probably been always a journey. I just didn't know that it was going to be my end journey. I started off in the mortgage industry.
Yes.
I've done compliance, I've done processing, I've also done title. So at the end, I kind of always knew that I wanted to do real estate. I love servicing people, and it was just another way to serve.
Nice. So you've worked in most every part of real estate, would you say?
Yep, except for loan officer.
Very nice. Was it always a dream to have a big family?
Yes.
Awesome.
It was always a dream to have a big family.
Say I'm getting married in September, and then we just found out that we are expecting in October.
Wow, congratulations and congratulations.
Thank you. It's a very big year for us.
That's awesome.
So we can go straight into today's topic, talking about negotiation and real estate in general. Just walk me through your general approach whenever you're going into a negotiation.
Well, I think first you always want to make sure to keep a calm head, level. The biggest approach to me is always knowing what everyone wants so you can get your client successful end.
Yes.
You want to make sure that you have clear communication in it. Without that communication piece, you're not going to be able to get to the end, the closing, and that's what's going to bring resolution to everyone. That person gets their new home, and that person gets to move on to their next journey.
Absolutely. How are you determining your client's priorities whenever you're shaping that negotiation strategy?
I think it has a lot to do with asking open-ended questions, making sure you know their why. Their why is the most important piece. Whether it's time, are they flexible with negotiating the price point because they need to leave at a certain time, or maybe they have an abundance amount of time and they need the money, or maybe they're ready for their next journey. Their family size is growing. I want to get into a bigger house. So it's understanding your client's why is the most important piece.
Very nice. So outside of price, what other terms of a negotiation are you commonly negotiating during a transaction? Like it could be closing costs, repairs, something like that.
I think a lot of time repairs is the major thing. And a lot of times people need either repairs or closing time. The seller may need a little bit more time in the home to get everything organized to move on to their next journey. So that's another piece that I think is something that we want to always make sure to keep that in mind when negotiating. Another thing could be, the buyer may be moving into a home that was already lived in. Maybe they're interested in getting that home warranty because the appliances may be in great shape, but they're worried about it or concerned about it down the line.
Yes.
So I think that's always important.
Awesome. So how are you advising clients whenever you have multiple offers on a property? How are you navigating that?
Yeah, so I think for my buyer, the thing is always to make sure to make the strongest offer. You always want to be at a point where you're not the weakest offer, and if they're really interested in that home and there's other offers, you want to make sure that you're sending in that strong offer. For my seller, I think most of the time it's just working through which one is the strongest offer to the weakest offer, and to let them know the different things that are going on in the contract so that they can have a clear understanding when making their choice.
Absolutely. Can you share an example of a solution that you proposed during a negotiation that maybe led to a win-win situation for everybody?
I have a reason.
Awesome.
So we had this client. She was very interested in this home. The inspection went well, but she still was concerned about the water heater. Yeah. It was a little seasoned water heater, okay. But of course, water heaters can give you a lot of life. And so we did go back and we told the seller and everything, and a home warranty is what was done for that. So in that case, that made her feel more comfortable to move to the end, to be able to close and feel comfortable, and that she's not, in a predicament at the end of her time.
Mm-hmm. How are you handling situations where maybe negotiations turn kind of adversarial almost, or tense? How do you handle those situations?
So I will tell you, when things like that happen, I think, first of all, it can be miscommunication. I think that keeping a level head is always the best thing. Without that, you can't move forward. And always reminding people what the end game is. It's basically trying to service your client at its highest level, and making sure that we're satisfying the clients and taking, any adversity out of it.
Absolutely. Final question. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from a negotiation that maybe didn't go as planned?
Well, I'm going to tell you again, communication. When you miscommunication or misunderstand what someone is trying to say, that is the biggest key. If you're not understanding, then at the end, then that's where that you can get into a problem. So whether it's with your client, whether it's with the other agent, even, your vendors, your mortgage company, all of that, you have to know the timelines and everything so that people can move on. So if you're not doing that and you're not communicating well, then you're not going to be successful.
Probably goes back to all that start whenever you're first meeting the seller or the buyer, just asking as many questions as you can to get a full scale of the whole situation that they're in, whether they're, like you said, trying to get out of the home quick, they're relocating, or they have time that they can sit there and negotiate a price more.
Exactly.
But yeah, absolutely. Another question that popped in my head, with us being in Avondale, you probably deal with a lot of historic homes.
Yes.
How does that come into factor whenever you're negotiating, or maybe just even at a closing table?
So it just depends on the home, whether the roof needs to be repaired or anything. You want to make sure that you know all the details of the home, and you want to know what your client is willing to do. A lot of times we are on the listing side of it, so we already have asked all those open-ended questions. How long do you need to be out of the property? Is there anything that you suspect that may need to be addressed? So when you know those key things, you're willing to go into a negotiating when a buyer wants certain things done. And either sometimes you have to give pushback and know these things are fine, the inspection went fine, or sometimes your seller is willing to compromise on those things to get to the closing. So again, it's all about asking the proper question and the right questions.
Absolutely. Well, Mirlene, thank you very much for coming on today.
It's been a pleasure, Noah.
Yeah, I enjoyed our conversation. A lot of good knowledge, but I will put all of Mirlene's social media, all of the website, I'll put all their groups' social media handles on, so you guys can go check out their content. They have some very great content if you guys want to go check it out. But other than that, we will see you all for next week. Take care.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you.